Hi guys, welcome to Inbound After Hours. Today we have a special guest. We have Luke Staton, and he is a performance coach and a motivational speaker. Hence, we are all drinking glasses of water today.
Oh, being really healthy for once.
Being a performance coach. So, how's things, Luke? You okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming in today. So we've got loads of questions for you. The first one is, tell us a little bit about yourself and the organisations you work with, a little bit about your background.
Okay, cool. So I think where my story usually starts for me is when I was 8 years of age. So 30 years ago, I had the privilege to go to Wembley Stadium, and I was a kid growing up on the street playing football. Always wanted to be a football player. That was like the dream, the goal, the ambition. And I remember this one particular opportunity I had was to go to Wembley Stadium with the primary school. And the one fear that I had at that time is I knew my parents, we had no money. So I remember it was only 15 quid, and these are the things you remember, aren't you, when you get older, you look back. I remember the letter saying your son's invited to go to Wembley Stadium to watch England schoolboys play. And I remember seeing the 1.5, 15 quid, thinking this will be interesting.
Yeah.
I must have been about, well, I think I was 8, 9 years of age at the time. So I take the letter home to my parents. And I remember giving them the letter just like full of hope that I could go, because I'd watched the FA Cup every year with my dad, watched England play, I had posters in my bedroom, that's all I dreamed about. So I give them the letter, 3 or 4 days goes by and I don't hear anything. I can remember now, thinking back, the anxiety of not being able to go. Your mates are bringing in the envelopes and the letters. Are you coming? Are you coming? I'm like, Dad, can I go? And eventually I was allowed to go. So I went into school, I given the envelope with 15 quid, given a letter. It was about 8 weeks away from this trip. And I can remember it was like a kid building up to Christmas. It was just so exciting, the thought of going to Wembley Stadium. The other kids, it was just more of a trip. To me, it meant more than that. So we get on the bus on this particular day and we travel to Wembley Stadium to see England schoolboys play. And for me, this particular moment certainly transformed my mind forever. And 6 words were given to me on that day, just 6 words. And this sounds crazy that like I'm 38 now, so 30 years ago, my head teacher said this to me, which I still use these words today with who I work with and my own self. So we get to Wembley Stadium, we climb up the steps, and we're looking onto the pitch. And I just remember, I don't know if you've ever been to Wembley Stadium before, but just looking at the grass, and this sounds crazy, but just the way it was lined perfectly straight, it was just like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And when I think about it now, it's like recreating that moment inside me. I get the goosebumps, I get the excitement and the energy. And I remember just being stood at the top of the steps, just looking at the pitch, and you've got England flags everywhere, you've got people chanting, you've got all the other school kids. And I remember all my schoolmates just whizzing past to just sit down and just not, they were there, but they weren't really there. And I stood there on the steps, and my headmaster come beside me, and he just stood there and he just looked at me. And the 6 words that he gave to me then was just like, I believe it transformed my life forever, and it took me down a path of where I am today. He just looked at me and said, in fact, I want to tell you what he said to me a little bit later on. I'll leave the podcast, I'll give you the 6 words in a little bit longer. So that's where it started. That's where my life really began. And from that moment on, I just become a different animal. I just start to believe that I wanted to be like them guys. So when I could see them guys on that football pitch watching that England game, it was just...
One day you will play here.
It was very similar. so
I've got to guess.
What are you doing? Sit down, kind of thing. Yeah, so
I'm only guessing because I know a bit of your background.
Yeah, no. So as he turned to me there, he just said, "That could be you one day." So that could be you one day. 6 words. That was it.
Yeah.
And until that moment, I hadn't really thought about that because I was a kid growing up. I was 8. When he said that to me, I remember at that moment thinking, if somebody that I respect that much can show that belief in me, why not? Why not? So whenever I come across them from the age of 8 years of age that would tell me it wasn't possible, you couldn't do it, I just didn't listen, because this headmaster I worshipped, who was an amazing guy, Mr. Spencer, you never forget the people's name, for him to say that to me gave me that much inner belief that it was possible. And then 6 years later I was there. 6 years later I was on the pitch playing for England against Switzerland, and then he's in the crowd singing the national anthem with the next school trip. And that just showed me that somebody can give you something. The greatest gift we can give is believing in somebody, and he gave me that at the age of 8. and it took me on to become what I wanted to do, was be a professional football player. And even though my career didn't go how I wanted it to, and it finished very early, them 6 words still take me now to do this, to do the next thing. Because I look at things and go, why couldn't that be me? That could be me. And I hear his words, that could be you one day. So when I see people doing things, I'm like, I could do that. So yeah, that's where my life, that's my earliest memory as a kid growing up. That could be you one day, and I think from there, it's just given me the tenacity to keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's led me on now to become a motivational speaker and performance coach, because if he could say 6 words to me that transform my life, you can see I like to say a lot of words, so imagine how many words I can give to people.
What you can do in an hour.
In an hour, speaking as fast as you can, like, it's incredible. So now I'm seeing me being able to do what he did to me across thousands of people really inspires me that what I'm saying people are listening and taking inspiration from.
Well, I met Luke with Paul. We went to an event that one of our clients run called the Be Brilliant Club. It's for like a group of marketers to come together and talk about things in the marketing industry. So I had a chat about inbound, and Luke came on next to do his performance and motivational side of it. One of the things I wanted to have a chat about today is when you get a group of marketers in a room, how different is that from a group of sportsmen, or I know you've been to the NHS or whatever, what's the differences you'd seen there? I know me and Paul, as soon as you said stand up and do something, like, oh my God. But like, I don't know if that's the introvert you get in that sort of scenario.
Yeah.
How do all your different groups change, and what have you noticed about it?
I think every group has similar dynamics. So you've got extroverts, you've got introverts, you've got people that are comfortable to stand up, engage in a fun game, you've got people that think this isn't for me. So any group you talk to, you've got the same dynamics, whether it's a marketing team, a massive organisation, or a sports team. Everybody seems to have that competitive edge, so they like competition. And then people have got the reservations, and looking at cultures, I do most of my work in the UK, so I have a reserved audience quite often. I believe if I was delivering the same kind of seminar in America,
They'd be on the seats.
they'd be cheering, they'd be jumping around.
He's a bit flat.
He needs to raise his game a bit. But in the UK, it's like, this guy's off the chain. This guy's crazy, and I'm like, what's wrong with you lot? So when I worked with the marketers, I was thinking these guys are going to be the kind of American mindset, full of energy, and there was a lot more in that audience. It was a lot quicker to get people going in some audiences, because I think people look around and go, I'm a marketer, I've got to be seen to be able to get out of my comfort zone. But I would still say it was pretty flat. It was like where people find it difficult to get out of the comfort zone, find it challenging, and we grow up not wanting to say or do anything that's out of line, because when we put our hand up at school and we get a question wrong, what does everyone do? They laugh at you. So as we get older, we hold that. So that's why when we get older, people have the fear of public speaking, because they're frightened of someone laughing at them. And I used to have that same thing. So growing up as a kid, when I was achieving some good stuff playing football, I weren't allowed to tell anybody. Because you'd be a big head. I played for England, and I come home one day and I want to walk out the house with my England shirt, and my dad tells me to take it off because someone might punch me in the teeth if they see me with it on, because I'd be showing off. So I would take it off, and people would say, how's things going? I'd be like, yeah, alright. I'm thinking, alright. I just played at Wembley Stadium. I'm 15 years of age and it's alright. Kenny Dalglish was getting my family to travel to Blackburn to sign me on a pro contract. It's just alright. So you grow up not wanting to celebrate your success because of the fear of people saying, who do you think you are? But then when you realise, actually, that's not the right way. It's the difference between arrogance and confidence and being proud of what you do. Very often when you say to somebody, what are you great at? They don't tell you because you're waiting for them to go, no, you're not. It's like, if I said to you, what are you great at? People go, I wouldn't say I'm great at it.
I'm all right.
And they get on with it. What are you not great at? You'll be able to say it straight away. So I think that speaking to the marketing companies there was interesting, because I expected them to be a lot more out of comfort zone faster. But then it got me thinking that no matter who you speak to, we all have the same reservations. Because when I sit in an audience, I feel the same fears of the audience. I just know now how to break them. I think if people understand how to conquer the fears, they'd be able to get out of the comfort zone a lot quicker.
It's funny what you're saying about people not being able to it's not even bragging, is it? It's just telling it as it is, how good things are. We say this about our own marketing a lot, is we never actually say we do a good job
Yeah.
for people, or we never. It's very rare. So we try to do this a bit more recently, but it's still uncomfortable, isn't it? Like we're very comfortable telling people how to do things and delivering great value and educational content, but when it comes to just saying, hey, we're pretty good at marketing, like, we feel like that's
but who wants to work with someone that's pretty good?
no one.
Do you know what? I never remember a manager signing a football player because he was pretty good.
No.
It's because he was outstanding.
Yeah.
So really, a marketing company, if I say to them, tell me what you're about, and they go, we're the best.
Yeah.
We believe we're the best. We work to be the best. I want to hear that because I want to connect to that.
Yeah.
Not, we're pretty good at what we do. I'm like, well, pretty good. I don't want to be pretty good. I want to be brilliant. So I want to find someone who's brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's not that they're not brilliant. It's the reserve, the feeling of, should I say that? Because if someone's going to say, actually, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's that fear, I think, of people being proud of what they're achieving.
Yeah. No, you look at a lot of British marketing, it is like that, isn't it? It's so reserved. But going back to the American point, you'll go on HubSpot's website and it says, we are the best marketing software in the world. Just that's it. That's what it says on the homepage. And
sometimes we in the States will be with a group of Americans and we'll do the round the room instructions. I'm Mark from Digital 22. I'm Ricky from Digital 22. Hi, I'm Well, Jesus. And it's just a Brit mentality.
It's a culture, isn't it?
We just need to change that a little bit.
because I thought when we first went to HubSpot over there and it freaked me out at first because everyone was smiling. And everyone's happy and asking how they know
Very
me.
strange.
And I don't even know you and you're asking how my day was. Like, wow, this is a bit weird. But then the other good thing is when you got people on video, everyone was happy to come on video. No one ever said no or looked shocked that we were asking them. Everyone was comfortable talking. I was like, when you come in here, do you get some sort of like PR training? Like I'm sure footballers and stuff have do that. Do you get some sort of PR? And they're like, no, this is just natural. It's like, you've got such a different upbringing where it's good to tell people how well you've done and how good your company is and all of this sort of stuff. It's completely different.
No, I agree with you. I mean, let's touch on some organisations you help now or have helped in the past. Similar to our viewers now, marketing professionals, business owners. Who have you worked with lately?
So one of the organisations we work with around 7 years now is Ping Europe. So they're a family-based business still in Phoenix, in Arizona. Family-owned, great organisational culture. It's all about the people, not the product. The people make the product. Without them, there is no product. So they've invested time, effort and money into their people to help them become high performers from a health and well-being perspective, from a motivational standpoint, to give them the best opportunity to be the best they can be every day of life. And their managing director for me is one of the most inspirational guys I've come across, called John Clark. He's been there 22 years. And when I first met him, he said, I want to help my people and their people. So what he's saying is he wants to have an impact on the 166 people that work within his organisation, but he also wants them to go home and help their wife, their daughter, their son, because he believes that if you're happy at home, you're happy with your family, you're happier at work. So the biggest cultures, the best cultures for me, organisational, don't just look at the product, they look at the people behind the product. Help the people first and the product takes care of itself. And for me, that's really inspired me to see that a company is prepared to invest everything they can to help their people. So that's one of them. And that was really funny. I think that's probably what got me into the kind of more the motivational public speaking. Was the managing director said to me one day, he brought me in for a meeting at his office, and I had shorts and t-shirts on. I was a fitness trainer at the time, and he says to me, I'm quite interested in this health and wellbeing stuff that you do. We've got 166 people here. What do you think you could do for us? So I talked about one-to-one health and wellbeing coaching and seminars and fitness classes and all this different stuff. He was like, right, okay, it sounds great, but we need to ask the people if they're interested. He said, can you come in next Tuesday and do a talk? He said, I'll shut the factory down, 166 people, and just do a talk. I'll give you an hour. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm thinking, what am I going to do for an hour? You know, what I'm going to talk about for an hour? So a week later I come, I still had a shorts, t-shirt and trainers on, and he put me in the canteen, beautiful canteen at Ping Europe, and everybody come to the canteen. He gave me an hour to talk about health and well-being. Now nobody wants to sit and listen for an hour about eating, sleep and exercise. And I didn't talk about health and well-being once. I told a story about a friend who was hit by a car and left paralysed from the neck down, that went on to represent GB and own his own businesses, and how when kind of adversity comes, that shows his strength of character. So I use storytelling to get them to engage with me and build a rapport. And then at the end, I said, by the way, I'm here to deliver a health and wellbeing program. If you're interested, sign up on the way out.
Yeah.
But what they saw from me was somebody that had an energy and a passion to help people. When I told them about my friend that was 26 and was hit by a car and left paralysed, but then didn't give up and went on to achieve great things and still is now, they was inspired by what can be achieved with such little help, such little resource. And I think they was thinking, why don't I make the most of what I've got? So the managing director said to me, right, 166 people, I think it'll be a success if we have 25 people sign up. I was like, 25? I want 166.
You're thinking, who's not signing up?
Like 25. And he was like, that'd be a huge success. So we did the talk, and as we walk in, he's like collecting the numbers. There was 96 people signed up. Yeah. And what was exciting for me was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, wow, 96 people want some help. Yeah. And that's gone on for the last 7 years.
Wow.
We've worked with the likes of EDF Energy, who are obviously a worldwide brand doing exactly the same, empowering people to live healthier lifestyles, empowering people to perform better in life, and then the knock-on effect is in work. TravelX, who are one of the biggest in the world for money exchange. We run leadership programs, performance coaching for them. PKF Cooper Parry, who you guys remind me of them, different industry, but very entrepreneurial, very driven, very hungry to provide a great culture for the people, to the point I've got a running track now around in new offices. So they're the types of
next on the checklist, isn't it?
They're the types of companies that we're attracting, because I think companies look at what's the difference that makes the difference. And we spoke about this earlier, where sports teams, from my background with sports teams had somebody that was in psychology, somebody that was a massage therapist, they had a nutritionist. But businesses is the same goal as a sports company, to win. It's to say you're a team wanting to win, but you don't have anything. So when companies start to find a gap, which is providing something for your people to take their performance in life to the next level, you're going to see business growth. It's not a myth, it's a fact. It will. If you invest in your people in the right areas, you'll see business growth. So for me, what's been powerful is businesses are investing it year in, year out, because it's free.
Exactly.
It's the return of investments, it's a no-brainer.
What's really interesting to me is what I think's obviously what underpins every company is the same. You need people who are coming to work switched on and passionate and energised. I think what's probably not unique in marketing, but I think what's interesting in marketing at the moment is the speed of change. So what we knew 5 years ago is redundant. We've got to be very self-starter and self-learning. How do you think people, and we've got people who are amazing at doing that. I mean, Paul and Andrew are great examples of people who have come and learned this industry and keep learning to stay on the top. How do you think you get people motivated to stay at the top? So if you're an in-house marketing manager now, your career's okay, but you want to go to the next level, I believe the only reason, the way they're going to do that is self-learning and continually self-learning. How do they get that drive, or where do they get it from? I imagine it comes much deeper than just being passionate about marketing.
So I believe in anything, whether it's marketing or any kind of line of work. If you love what you do and you're passionate, you want to be the best at it, you don't have that 9 to 5 mindset. So the best of the best don't finish and start at a time. They're constantly learning and growing and developing. Someone, I can't remember who it was now, said it's not what you do between 9 and 5 that counts, it's what you do between 5 and midnight. Because if every night you work between 5 and midnight learning, developing, just think how much more of an animal you become. You become relentless. So for me, it's the person that just switches off. I don't think they're actually into what they do that much. Or they've not found the kind of real purpose behind what they do. Whether it's they don't buy into the culture of the organisation, they don't buy into where the company's going, they feel distracted from the company, they feel left out, they feel ignored. So their way of not kind of pulling along is to just pull away a little bit, and it drops their motivation. Motivation comes from within, and I always believe that I believe I could motivate anybody. I really believe that. I used to think I can't help people if they don't want to be helped. I don't think that's true. I think you can help anybody. You've just got to find the leverage to help that person. So if somebody's plodding and you find some leverage, which is, would you want your son to be a plodder? No, I want my son to be. Okay, so what kind of role model are you? All of a sudden, the guilt trip. You've got to find leverage sometimes. You've got to find a leverage. So I think for anybody to go to the next level, they've got to love what they do, to put the hours in. Got to be passionate. they've got to be addicted to it in a way that they're just kind of obsessed with learning and growing, to the point that they feel guilty when they're not putting the effort in. And that's not to say they work 24 hours a day, but if your mind's always thinking and thinking, you get more excited about what you do, and you see the results, and the results are great.
I mean, without going too deep on the podcast today, because it's not normally our style, but why do you guys keep learning about inbound, and what drives you to
I was just thinking in my head then, comparing it to old jobs I've had. So I used to be a QS in construction, just stumbled into it out of sixth form and hated it, but did it to get a free degree, and it was a good job, and there was money when you were qualified and all that stuff that you're interested in when you're 18. But looking back now, that my motivation was through the floor, and what keep you going doing your job was just your professional pride and the motivation to just be not doing a bad job for somebody who's paying you. But then when you flip that to when I was writing and teaching, and obviously now marketing, that is a completely different drive, because you love what you're doing and stacked out at the minute and busy, but every task you're doing is that you're enjoying. So that's the big difference.
Agree.
It's just enjoying the task that you're doing as well. If you're lucky, I think, if you can find that, you're very.
You've got to find it.
You don't have it.
You've got to find it. You've got to, and I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong to be doing something that you don't enjoy, because your life's disappearing in front of your own eyes. We spoke about you, didn't you? You know, being in a corporate world for so many years that you actually don't want to be in, but you're just in it. You're not sure about to get out of it, so you just carry on.
There's two ways as well. As I've gone through that career change young, and like you say, again a bit deep, but it does make you miserable, spending 40 plus hours a week doing something that you don't enjoy. So you've got two attitudes. You need to find your motivation somewhere else. I've got family members who write off that 40 hours as a way of paying the bills, and then they're motivated to go and do something else in the evening, or they're motivated to go travel every weekend or something.
So that you think with that though, that, like I hear loads of people saying, I've only got 10 years left. You know, someone that's working towards retirement, I've only got, and I'm like, 10 years, and they're really unhappy, but they're working towards that retirement, unhappy for 40 hours a week. Although what they'll do is they'll say, well, that brings me happiness in other areas, like you're saying. And my challenge to that is, imagine if you could find something that you did for 40 hours that you enjoyed. You now have every hour of your day enjoying what you do.
I think you go back to that first point, that a lot of people don't think that you're allowed to go and do that. A job's a job. You should be happy you've got a job, and that's that. Take your way.
Again, that's my dad saying, you should be happy you've got a job. Money doesn't grow on trees.
Well, it's very true that we become our environment, don't we? And I remember growing up very often, all I would hear was, well, it pays the bills. So you hear, I do it to pay the bills, so then you grow up thinking all I've got to do is pay the bills, but what about doing things that you enjoy on top of it? But you didn't have that because there was only enough money to pay the bills. And I think one of the biggest drivers from me, and it's something that's always stuck with me, is when my mum just always said to me, whatever you do, don't live your life like us. You know, I know that sounds like deep and quite painful, but my mum used to say, Luke, whatever you do not live your life like us, because we had no money. We couldn't go on holidays. You know, my dad, from the age of 30, couldn't work from sickness. My mum was a cook and a cleaner, so we had no money. You know, walking to school an hour and back, football boots. I got to play at Wembley Stadium when I was 10 in a six-a-side tournament, and all the kids were getting bought brand new football boots, and mine had a hole in. And my dad said because it was the end of the season, he didn't want to buy me a new pair because I might have grown out of them by next season. So he taped them up with black masking tape. And he taped them up, and my left foot had this black masking tape. And you can imagine all your pals taking them in. But the lesson behind it was great, and that lesson took me, like, I still feel that kind of characteristic now that he gave me. It was like, you don't need the new boots.
No, they don't make a difference.
He used to say to me, it's not the tools, it's the person in them. And I was like, do you know what? I don't need new boots. I can do it. And I went out and scored 2 goals, and I got player of the tournament. So in my mind, it was like, I was not happy at the time, so I had black masking tape around my boots. But it gave me that character of, no matter how tough things get, there's always a way. You know, you don't need stuff. You can make the best of what you've got. And that's what I did. And I think my upbringing, my parents being quite hard on me like that, to the point of when I was a youngster, I might win a trophy that would be most improved player of the year, and I'll be super buzzing with that. And I get in the car, my dad would say, but you must have been rubbish to start with, son. And I was like, gosh, So then I'm like, right, okay. So he said, when you start to win Players Player of the Year and Managers Player, that's when you can celebrate. Winning Most Improved, it just means you were rubbish and now you're okay. And I was like, yeah, maybe it does. But I remember them moments, and them moments gave me the drive to keep proving people wrong. Sometimes what it does on the downside is you never enjoy the moment because you're always looking at what's next. So I think I've spent many years of my life achieving something, not celebrating it, and just looking at what's next all the time, and never really enjoying the experience in the moment because I was scared to in case I was being complacent, so you're looking at what's next. So there is a downside to that mentality.
I mean, one of the things the way we try and interview now is we want people who love what they do and are passionate about it and want to self-learn, and we fell into a few pitfalls with that earlier with recruitment. Now we ask a lot about who do you follow on Twitter, who are your influencers, yeah, I mean, you ask outright, what's your passion, which I think is great. I don't ask people that, but why not? Like, it's great. How do you learn and stuff? And when you see people stumbling around, like, how do you learn? You can tell when someone's not into it, or someone will go like, I love Gary Vee, or other like people who are really influencing online, or Rand, or someone like that, and you can tell they love it. I think that's made a big difference when we've been interviewing. It's cut people down a lot and made it slower to hire, but I think when we get there, we'll find the people who love what they do.
It's quicker in the long run, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because they're going to stay at it and enjoy it. Definitely.
I mean, we've chatted about this. In our industry, we have to make a lot of mistakes. Technology is that quick, and we have to make a lot of mistakes in marketing, social media, PPC, and our heads go down sometimes, don't we? We spoke about it. I mean, how do you handle that? Just
well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you just got to think that we are the experts in the industry, and the whole industry's, chopping and changing and wriggling through what's the right and wrong thing to do. I think it's just the attitude and the approach to, we know there's problems there to be fixed, and that's why we do what we do, and that's what the clients have. We're trying to solve problems really at the end of the day, and you've got to find out the right way. And I think, like you say, the approach and the attitude to that, and being motivated and enjoying marketing and enjoying those problems, you've got to find some weird, slightly sick enjoyment in like these problems, headaches, and don't always go 100% right, but you eventually work through as a team and get there.
I think one of the big learnings when we went to the US recently, and we talked about how they market themselves. We met the CMO Kip, and he was saying if they don't waste 80% of their budget, they're leaving a lot on the table. So they're looking at, like, we're not really pushing the boundaries and finding out, getting in things first, or finding things that don't work. We're leaving a lot on the table. Found that really, and we were both shocked when they said 8% of their marketing budget's like wasted, and now their budget's like hundreds of millions. So they probably got money to waste, to be fair. But that really shocked us, because from an agency perspective, you're looking at clients like every pound counts, and you've got to make that ROI on every pound to keep it going. And I think that's maybe the difference between some major high growth companies, investment based companies.
I think looking at what is the return, is it just profit, or is it learning, is it development, is it expansion, and just our own marketing is the easiest one to go with. It'd be a tricky one selling that to a client, I can imagine, but return is learning and getting better and fine tuning, so I can see why they do that.
I have that conversation with AdWords. So with AdWords, I say what you need to do is we can do all the research you'll ever want to do around PPC. We can find out the keywords. We can look at estimate conversion rates. But the only way you're going to know if something works for you is to test it. So you've got to go, whether you like it or not, with AdWords. You've got to put your products and services on it. You've got to throw some money at it, and we call it a burn period, which people probably don't like if it's their money, but you've got to go through that period when you're looking at paid to find out what does work, what does get traction. And basically all you do in that period is paying for data. You're paying to find out what doesn't work, but once you've gone through that, you paid, you know where to double down on, and you know what to cut out. But without investing in failing forward, or whatever you want to call it, you would never get to that point where you know what works and what doesn't.
I always liken it to people that, I say to people, why do you watch a film? And they watch the film to see what happens at the end, but you don't know what the end is till you've watched the film. So until you start something, you don't know how it's going to turn out, but you're watching it with the best intentions that you're going to enjoy it. And if you've watched it for 2 hours and it wasn't great, you then watch a different one. I think that's the same with marketing or whatever you do. My life was about becoming a football player. That was the goal at the beginning, that was a dream, I had a purpose, I was passionate. I got so far and then it stopped. Things changed for me, and I went through a kind of awful area of adversity, challenging, real challenging time of my life. But then I just found something else. So it didn't work, go on to something else. It's the same with marketing, it's the same with going to the gym.
Definitely.
You put the weights on the squat rack and you can't get up, you take the weight off and you try again with a lighter weight.
Yeah, exactly.
You just find a different way. And I think that people become too fixated on short-term success in anything, whether it's investment, whether it's marketing, whether it's going to the gym. If they don't lose weight in a week, they quit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it took you 20 years to put 4 stone on, you're not going to lose it in a week.
Yeah.
I once, when I was a personal trainer, actually a lady trained me 3 times and said she was going to quit because she hadn't lost any weight. It was 3 times in 3 days. I'm like, give me a chance. You're 45 years of age, you've lived a lifestyle, however the mentality was short-term fix. And I think the world becomes obsessed with short-term wins.
It's definitely a challenge we have
That's
that.
the chat before the podcast where we were talking about your program being 12 months.
Yeah.
And it's similar with our program. An inbound program can be 12 months. People want the quick wins in month 1. It's not happening, is it?
You get many wins within the big win,
Yeah.
but you've got to adapt along the way because there's no... I'm yet to meet one person yet that's become a short-term success. And if they have, where are they in 5 years? They're not usually anywhere. It's like growth of hard work. The favourite story I tell that relates to that is what's in my pack there, is about the bamboo. The farmer plants the bamboo seed and every day he goes out waiting for it to break through the ground, and his wife's giving him grief because the bamboo's not come through the ground yet. So he does this for a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, but every day he nurtures it, he waters it, he feeds it. Every day he shows dedication, consistency and perseverance, and he keeps feeding the field. A year goes by, still nothing's come through the ground. Like, what would most people do? They'd quit, they'd go on to something else. But he believed in it, so he kept going. 5 years passes, still nothing's come through the ground. So you can imagine going over to his wife. His wife's like, why don't you just do something different? It's like, no, because I believe the bamboo will come through the ground. Then after 5 years, next day the bamboo comes through the ground, and in 6 weeks it grows 95 foot tall. This is a fact. This is a fact. In 5-6 weeks it grows 95 feet tall. And then I say to people, so how long did the bamboo take to grow 95 feet tall? And they'll go, 5-6 weeks. I'm like, no, it was 5 years. It's 5-6 weeks. Because that was the foundation. He was dedicated, consistent, and he was persevered when his wife was in his ear to do something different. And I think I relate that to so many people that I work with in sport, business, or relation, in anything, that we quit too quick. Because if we really believe in something and we've got the plan to back it up, why not keep going? Because 5 years, imagine 5 years getting up every morning, watering a field and nothing happening. You know, millions would have stopped. He kept going, and the growth was just exponential. And to the point now, when I tell this story, I give people a bamboo stick. And I have people now, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years later, sending me photographs where their bamboo is on their wall, and they've now gone on to achieve a goal or a dream that they weren't going to do before because they thought they was too old, too late, I ain't got time. You know, guys in the mid-30s that thought, well, I'm doing what I do now and that's it. Now gone off to do other stuff. It's amazing.
I'm going to cut that, and that's going on the homepage of our website. That's the analogy for inbound marketing, isn't it? Because we always go through this stage where you end up saying to a lot of people, just hold your nerve at 6 months, and just hold your nerve. You're on the precipice of it, however you say that word, but you're so close to it happening. And we've got all the charts and all the clients where the curves are like that. It's exactly the story of the bamboo, isn't it?
They'll break through the ground.
Exactly.
When it's like that, first, I guess when you first start your business, you get one customer and then you get 10 and 30 and 50. But to get that one, it's hard. You've got to start. I remember when I first started doing fitness instructor many years ago, I set up this circuit class. I was really excited about it. I expected 50 people to come. One guy turned up that actually worked there, so he was free. So I didn't get paid anyway. So I went on a Friday night, set it all up, planning it for all these 50 people. Saturday rocked up, one guy turns up, because he owned a gym, he was free, and he was like, do you still want to do it? I was like, definitely. You turn up, I'm going to give you my best. So I gave him my best. Within 4 or 5 weeks, I had 50 people. Because that shows just keep going, but keep going. The first seminar I delivered, 2 or 3 people. Do you still want to do it, Luke? Definitely. Because I'll make a difference to you 3 that will tell 10, that's 30, next time I'll have hundreds. And that's just what's happened. And it's that bamboo, and I always tell myself that all the time. I'm going to break through the ground. When I do, I'm just going to explode. And I haven't exploded yet, because I don't think when you're hungry for success, you ever do. You keep going and keep going, don't you?
Definitely. I love that. That's a great analogy for how it works. And we have to have that conversation a lot of times. I think if you start listening to this and you're trying to pitch inbound to your boss, and you've got to have that awkward conversation around the 6, the 9, the 12 months, which your boss doesn't want to hear. They want the quick wins, they want the PPC, they want everything to happen tomorrow. I think having analogies like that, I mean, you use them a lot, don't you, analogies, but having some good analogies like that does help relate the situation.
Definitely.
Mine's not as good as that.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Use that next time. It's got a good story around it as well. My analogies don't. Very quick and sharp. I like you hold them back a little bit, so there's an ending to them.
That leads us on. I mean, Paul's got some questions in there, but it leads us on to limiting beliefs. So the last 2 talks we've just done a webinar, and the last podcast is all about video marketing, podcasting. And we didn't realise we built the slide deck. A lot of them is about the psychology of fear of camera, fear of judgment, getting on camera, and how can these guys overcome such things as getting on camera now and doing this? Because you just walked in, you're so relaxed, you sat back, you said yes straight away, not an issue. We've had other guests on the show who are really high flyers as well. I mean, you can see them climb up a little bit. It's in there. What advice could you give the viewers?
So it's a really interesting question, because I honestly believe that you can fake it till you make it. And I really believe that, because I don't come in here super comfortable to sit in front of 4 people, 4 cameras, do a podcast that's going to go to thousands of people. I put myself in the right frame of mind to be comfortable, to deliver the best.
It's scared me, that.
So I come in and I'm not scared or fear of it. I'm nervous, I'm excited. I feel the adrenaline of when I was a sportsman again, because I want to do a great job, because I know how many people it could influence. So I always want to perform to my best, but what I can do is I can walk into any environment and just click my fingers and be the best I can be, because I lose all fears of what people think and the inhibitions, and what if I don't say the right thing? Where many years ago, and I'll do it, what if the words don't come out right? What if I forget what I'm saying? What if it's recorded and it gets posted and somebody criticises it? I've gone past bothering about that, because the amount of people that do enjoy it, for the odd one that wants to criticise, it's a different balance. So to help that kind of mindset, for me, it's just a real strategy in your mind of create the image of who you want to be in that moment. Tell yourself you're that person and just go and fake it. And then you sit there and actually you're enjoying who you are. And then you're like, actually I was pretty good there. First time I stood on stage, I took myself back to when I was a footballer. I was thinking, how can I stand on stage and feel powerful and exciting and dynamic? When have I ever felt like that? The only time I'd ever felt like that was when I was a football player, when I would be in that game and it was like heat of the moment and you're flying to tackles. That's when I felt at my best. So I just thought about the best games I ever had, of how I felt that feeling, held that feeling, and I walked out to that stage like it was a football field. It was my arena, and I owned that arena again. My dad always used to say to me before every football match, you stand there, you look at your opponents, and you just think, I'm going to take you down. First chance.
You're a dirty player then.
I was just tough. I just wanted to win, and my dad always said, Luke, because you're so small, you've got to take them out. So I would be like, I'm going to take him out the first chance that I get. So when I stand on the stage, I don't look at the audience and think I'm going to take them out. But I stand there with the
slide tackle.
I stand there with the same energy that I'm here because I'm here. I deserve to be here. And I tell myself that much that I deserve to be there. And a lot of it's just self-talk and not true. But who cares? Because if it means you perform in the moment, it gets you through what you're going to do. But for people that really have that kind of fear of doing it, there's so many strategies that you can develop. Think of a time when you are comfortable. So when is the most comfortable time when you feel confident, most relaxed? Go to that place in your mind. Go to that place before you're about to do something you're uncomfortable with. Draw a circle of where you're going to sit or where you're going to stand. And within that circle, you're going to allow yourself to feel like that. And then when you sit in it or you stand there, you're thinking of whether it's your child or the holiday or whatever it was, and it just brings you down. And always think of the reason why you're doing it. And so you made a good point. You're looking at problem solving because of the end outcome. So when things are tough, you're always looking at the light at the end. Why am I doing this? It's to get to the end of where the light's going to shine. So if you're going to be uncomfortable for 20 minutes to do a talk on camera, just think that where that could take your business, it could help the people in front of you, and that's usually more powerful than shying away from doing it.
That's ultimately what got me to do this eventually. I do another video series, and what got me to try and get this together and do it was ultimately fear of judgment and everything was so great, but what was greater is that in 5 years' time, if we don't do this, we're going to be pretty irrelevant. Like, this is the way marketing's going, and if we don't do this, the other outcome's worse. And obviously the positive outcome of it is we can influence a lot of people, we can be early adopters, and we can be there so that when other people are in our space, are behind us already. So that's where I got the
You've got leverage on yourself.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Really, if you didn't have to do it, you probably wouldn't have done it.
Exactly.
But you get to that point where you just have to, or the fear of what could happen if you don't is so concerning that it makes you do it.
Yeah.
And I was working with a professional football club last night, and I'll share this story with you because I think it's very relevant to what we're talking about on limiting beliefs and when your back's to the wall of the things that you do, because you wouldn't have gone into doing the public speaking and podcasting if you didn't know the importance behind it. So these two boys, you may have seen this on my social media, but two boys, it's a true story, 25 years ago, two boys set off for school, 11-year-old and a 9-year-old boy. And every day they used to walk to school down the canal bank. This particular morning, it was December and it was all icy and cold. So as the boys set off for school, the mother turns around to the two boys and says, boys, whatever you do not go on the ice. I mean, what happens when someone tells you to do something? It's like, you do it. You see wet paint, do not touch, you touch it, or boiling up a plate, the waiter puts down, don't touch it, it's red hot. When no one's looking, you just have to check it. So she says to the 11-year-old and 9-year-old, do not go on the ice. Two boys set off for school. And as they're walking down the canal, they get the football out and start passing the ball backwards and forwards. And this particular pass changed their life forever. The pass went under the little boy's foot, and the ball rolled onto the far side of the canal. So now you've got the 9-year-old boy stood there, next to him is his 11-year-old brother. The 11-year-old looks at the ball and he says, I'll fetch it. So the 9-year-old looks at the 11-year-old and starts getting really scared and says, don't fetch it, because if that ice breaks, we're in trouble. So the 11-year-old says, it's fine, I'll do it. So he gets onto the ice and he steps on. And at first the ice is like pretty solid around the outside and he's okay, and he gets further and further and further. But the 11-year-old boy gets to the middle of the ice and he starts to brace himself because he feels something shifting. The 9-year-old boy, before he has a chance to tell him, he goes straight through the ice. So now you've got a 9-year-old boy who's still on his own, screaming and crying with fear. His brother's gone through the ice. What does he do? He sprints onto the ice himself and he starts trying to break through the ice with his own hands, and he's punching, he's screaming, and he just cannot get through the ice. So he runs off the ice, he runs to a tree, and he tries to break down a branch to break through the ice with a stick. He breaks down, he jumps up on the branch, just won't break. He falls to the ground, he looks back to the ice, and he starts to realise what the consequences are if he doesn't break through that ice. Jumps back up on the tree, swinging on the branch for a second time, he falls down again. And this time he looks back and he sees less movement under the ice from his older brother. So now what's happening is he's getting more intense about what he's doing. Jumps on the branch, breaks down the branch, eventually runs to the ice, smashes through the ice with the stick, enough space to be able to pull the ice out, prods his brother, who's not moving so much anymore, he's prodding him with the stick. His older brother grabs the stick, he pulls him onto the ice, and he drags him all the way to the canal bank. It's a 9-year-old boy for his 11-year-old big brother. Gets him to the side. By now everyone had arrived, paramedics and people was now watching. So they wrap up the boy in towels, and everything was okay, everything was fine with the big brother. And the paramedic, and this for me is like what we're talking about now, it all comes down to kind of these few words. So the paramedic says to the other paramedic, he says, how is that possible? How does a 9-year-old boy break down a tree, smash through the ice and pull his 11-year-old brother to safety? And the other paramedic replies, I've got no idea, look at the size of his tiny. So then this old guy that had arrived stood just walking the dog. He shouts across to the paramedics and he says, I know how he did it. So the paramedics turn to the old guy and go, how? He's 9. He broke down a branch, smashed through the ice, he saved an 11-year-old brother. How does a 9-year-old boy that's so small and scrawny do that? And the old man says it was because, I'll tell you that bit at the end actually. We'll come back to that bit.
Got us twice.
I actually told you what the headmaster said, didn't I? I do that.
Yeah. Okay, we'll finish on that as the last word.
I think you have some more questions, Paul, regarding speaking.
Yeah, just about the process of, obviously you've got public speaking, you've exposed one trick.
Yeah, on the...
But just wondering what your process is before you do a talk like the one Ricky and I watched a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Obviously it was all off the cuff, it felt very natural. Is it rehearsed? Is it the same talk? Just what's your process for public speaking really?
So I always start with what's the outcome. So whatever it is, coming here today to meet you guys, whoever I'm meeting, it's what's the outcome of why am I going there? What am I looking to achieve? What's the outcome? So the outcome of doing the talk, it could be a number of different things. It can be promote a new program. It can be to inspire children in front of you. What is the outcome? From the outcome, I work back. How am I going to do that? How am I going to achieve that outcome in the time that I've got? What's the best content to use within that, all to achieve that outcome? Now, I have multiple stories that I use depending what message I want to get across, whether it's limiting belief, confidence, adversity, challenge, fear. So people in the audience are going to relate to the stories. When people in the audience relate to the stories, they feel like you're talking to them, and then you've got them. And it's like I'm telling you guys a story about the ice, and you're like, what happens? You've got them, because then you can get the outcome that you want, is where it might be them achieving to leave with something that they go on to achieve something greater, or purchasing a program that you believe is going to change their life forever, whatever it is. So start with the outcome and work back. It's like a business starting, what's the goal, what's it we're looking to do, and then how we're going to do it. So I work hours before a talk, more on the kind of getting my energy right, getting the mental side right, and I literally just bullet point the stories that I want to tell, and very rarely I stick to it. So I will start, but I'll see a reaction in an area that's inspiring, and I'll go down that route. So I guess I have different go-to stories at any moment to bring out at the right time, but I follow a kind of a script to make sure I achieve my outcome. Sometimes that script changes, but I could put for a 45-minute talk, very rarely I deliver the same talk twice, because for my own energy I want to keep creating new content. So I might take one story out and put a new one in, but the same kind of tempo of talk. For me, it's getting the right energy level. So like last night I delivered a talk to Millwall Football Club. I was waiting 4 hours to deliver it because I was held up in traffic. So I'm up for it, I'm ready, and then I'm down again. And then it becomes, we didn't start till 9 o'clock till 11 p.m. at night. So all of a sudden you've got to be ready for that, you've got to perform. I've driven 4 hours, you know, it's a lot. So it's how it's getting back to that. My outcome is to achieve that. I've got to do everything I can to achieve it. So you've got to have a script of content, bullet points. But if you're reading from a script, it's not real, and people don't buy into it.
We've talked a lot about that in terms of how we've gone about doing this, and we've fell on the what we call semi-scripted route, which is what we're doing today. We've got maybe 5 or 6 things we wanted to come and talk about, but everything that happens around them is just off the cuff, and the conversation goes the way it wants. When we did scripted, you end up talking stupid, slow, or however you react to a script. When you go completely unscripted, you end up just waffling in the ring for flow, especially when you stick us for and say talk about marketing however you want for half an hour. It can go anywhere. So
I think about the script, the outcome focused, create the content to achieve the outcome, and I go over it that many times in my mind, I feel like I know what I'm going to do when I'm there, because I'm a big fan of visualization. So if I'm going to do a talk, I'm already imagining delivering that talk days before. Sometimes I might be delivering 4 or 5 in a week. So it's like on the day of, I'm now, right, what's this talk going to look like? As soon as I've done that one, I'm on to what I'm going to talk about, what's the next one look like. So it's visualizing doing it, that when you're there, you feel like you've already delivered it, that it's comfortable for you. And I love it sometimes. You know, last night my talk was planned. It was a presentation I had planned. I turned up, there'd been a mistake, there's no audio, there's no computers, there's no nothing. We did it in a canteen. So very fast you've got to change everything that you've planned and quickly do something different. I think that's with experience that you can do that.
I like the visualisation thing as well. It works in a lot of areas, like before an interview or a big meeting or a match or something. Definitely.
I would say back to an earlier question that you said, how do you help somebody that's uncomfortable with public speaking or doing kind of interviews? Visualise it that many times that you feel comfortable that you've already done it. Because when you've already been there and you've already done it, it's like, well, I've done this, so I'm alright. All the time. I think Muhammad Ali was the greatest ever at it. He said he used to visualise every round of every punch, so when the punch comes, he knew where he was going to move. Rather than standing there and the punch comes and you're like, where do I move? He'd already moved in his dreams and his thoughts. So your thoughts become so powerful, you trick yourself that you've actually already done it. So the public speaking, you've already done it.
It's thinking ahead of the questions.
Correct.
If you think ahead of what questions might come up after, you've already prepared a little bit. Or you've prepared for one similar. So
And I think it's also being just knowing what you need to know. You know, I wouldn't stand up and talk about maths or English because I'll get found out.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable when I'm stood there that if anybody puts a hand up to ask something, I will know. I know my area, and if they ask me something out of it, I'm confident enough to go, I can't go there because I don't really know.
Yeah.
If you ask me how to become a super phenomenal marketer, I'd be like, ask Ricky. Or, I don't know. If you ask me how do you go from there to there, I'll be able to tell you. I believe you can do it. So stick to what you know and be confident in your arena, because you get questions that you can't script for.
No.
So when the question comes, you've got to be able to respond in a way that's the best of your ability, but that's knowing your craft and being so passionate with the self-learning developing that someone throws a question, you're ready, because it's there, you know, you believe in what you do, it's ready for them.
Yeah, how do you stop, the monkey mind, the chimp mind, the negative thoughts? So we're in front of an audience now and suddenly this little chimp kicks in and goes, what if they laugh at me, what if they How do you stop that stuff from?
Well, very early on, that happened to me quite a lot. And there was a guy, I was delivering a talk at EDF Energy, and they asked me to do a 15-minute motivational talk before their CEO would come and do an update. But what I didn't realise is it was 350 guys that didn't want to be there. There's only there because they got a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea. This is true. So this guy called Andy Richardson, who's in Australia now, fantastic leader. So he says, right, Luke, come and do 15 minutes at the beginning. Just break the ice a little bit, and then I'll come and do my bit that they don't really want to listen to, but they're there, they're there to listen to the CEO. So I turn up and this guy's not even looking at me. He's looking the wrong way, hard hats, overalls. And there's this one guy sat at the front. And this answers the question in a story format is, this guy sat looking at me right at the front and he looked like he wanted to kill me. And I'm not, honestly, he was sat, arms folded, and he sat there, he's about 5 foot and he's staring at me like he wants to kill me. He's looking at me like a rugby player that he's going to attack. And all I kept doing was delivering my talk, and then I kept catching his eye and thinking, he's hating everything that I'm saying. Really, and then it would take me off. And I would have that, this isn't going well. And then I would get into it again, I'd just catch him staring at me like he was going to just attack me at any moment. So I deliver this 15-minute talk, the CEO comes up, he does his thing, and he goes, I'd like to thank Luke for coming in and doing his 15-minute talk. And everybody claps as they do, and then all of a sudden this guy walks up to me from the front and he puts his hand out and goes, thanks for that, it was brilliant.
Yeah, you could see that.
And I was mind reading, so I think one of the biggest causes of personal issues with work colleagues, friends, family, loved ones, public speaking is mind reading when you've got no evidence of it.
No.
I thought he was going to kill me and he was just focused. He was focused. I did it another time when I had an inferior, I think because of my lack of education growing up, I got asked to do a talk at the university to 200 lecturers. Straight away I had that, how can I talk to them because I've not got a PhD, I'm not a doctor, and I'm talking to professors around mindset, motivation, of how to inspire students. How are they going to listen to me? Someone's going to put their hand up and go, what qualifications you got? And I had that fear. So I turned up and I was like, right, break through it. So I turn up and I'm doing the talk. 2 guys kept talking as I was talking, and all I was thinking was, they're saying, who is this guy? He's shocking. What does he know? That was all the fears that I had inside. I thought they was doing that. And at the end, these 2 guys put their hands up and went, do you know what? As you was talking, we was discussing the amount, the difference this will make to students' lives will be unbelievable. And we'd like to come and shadow you and watch what you do. So I was like, I'm getting this wrong. So my own little kind of negative doubt is making me think that they're saying things that they're not. So I just stopped mind reading. Instead, if that happens now, I think they're talking about how brilliant I am. So it pumps me up even more to get more excited. Even if they're not, it does me no good by thinking that they're not, because they're never going to tell you.
No.
So mind reading, what will people think when they watch this video? What will they say when they hit? It's like, don't worry about it. Just break through it.
Yeah, because we all do. We've got in the events where I sat down, I think the first one we did with 2 girls laughing on the front row, and it's completely put me out. I ended up just facing the screen and just reading, look at the audience. It could have been anything.
Oh yeah, of course it could. But you thought, oh, this guy.
Could have been one of your witty jokes, Mark.
So, I know we all relate to that story. We all do it, don't we? Well, we've got to wrap up now, so can you finish the story off then?
Which one
What's
was
the
the
ice
one? So the ice one, yeah. So the boy breaks through the ice, he pulls him to safety, and the paramedic says to the other paramedic, "How has he done it?" And the old guy shouts, "It was because." And the paramedic's like waiting for the answer, and the old guy just goes, "Because there was nobody there to tell him he couldn't." There was nobody there to tell him he couldn't. 85% of people I've worked with in 2016, young people between 11 and 18, when I asked the question, have you ever had someone that squashed a dream or a hope or changed your direction, 85% of them say it's through a parent, a loved one, a friend or a family member. Because our family and friends love us and they want to protect us. So sometimes it's easy to keep you safe by keeping you in your comfort zone. So quite often our dreams, hopes and goals are squashed by the people closest to us because they care about us the most. Not because they don't want us to do well, they're just scared of what happens if it doesn't work. The fear of failing scares people of actually having a go. So when I hear that, it's like, wow. So the story about the guy that says there's nobody there to tell him he couldn't, he had no choice. I think you said earlier, the reason I told that story is because you talked about doing podcasts and video. You didn't want to do it because of the fear of what people would think. You had no choice, so you did it. If that 9-year-old boy hadn't done that, his brother would have died. The purpose was so intense, he had to do it. So there was no choice. And I think when you develop that mentality that you have to do it, you just got to do it, it happens. And until you create that own inner desire and purpose, you know, why would you? He wouldn't break through the ice if his brother went under it.
No.
You wouldn't have done your podcast and video if you didn't believe it would take your company to another level. It gives your company a better platform.
Exactly.
So you've got to create the purpose and the passion behind it. And the fear of failing should never stop you.
No. That's a pretty apt place to end, really. I think.
Where can people find you? Have you got a website? People can just find a bit more about you?
Yeah, people can find me at www.lukestaton.com.
Okay.
Instagram at Luke Staton1, same on Twitter or Facebook. I'm on all the platforms, so I'd love to connect with people there.
That's brilliant. We'll put them in the show notes, and thank you. I enjoyed that.
Definitely. I enjoyed it too. It was great to meet you all.
I'd like to have you back, so I hope you enjoyed it. Leave us some comments.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.